You ever have one of those days where you just know someone picked the wrong fight with the wrong person? That's exactly what happened when I walked out of my own home one morning, coffee in hand, only to find 3 uniformed officers standing next to a woman I barely knew, holding an eviction notice with my name on it. "Mr. Raymond Carter?" she asked with a rehearsed confidence, lips pursed so tight they could slice paper. "That's me," I said, "but I think you're making a mistake." The woman was Margaret Green, president of the local homeowners association, newly elected, full of fire, and clearly high on the scent of authority. She pointed dramatically at the printed notice. "You violated several clauses of the HOA agreement, including excessive lawn height, unauthorized modifications to the property, and failing to comply with noise ordinances. As of this moment, you're being formally evicted from this property." I blinked, then I laughed. "Evicted? You can't evict me from my own house." She smiled condescendingly. "Oh, I can, and I will. You see, the bylaws allow us to request enforcement assistance from local authorities in cases of extreme noncompliance. These gentlemen are here to ensure you leave the premises peacefully." The 3 officers looked uncomfortable. One of them, Officer Nelson, even avoided my eyes. He'd been in my courtroom more than once. That's right, I'm a judge. A district judge with 20 years of experience on the bench. And today was about to be a very long one for Margaret Green. I didn't yell. I didn't get angry. I took a long sip of coffee and set it on the porch rail. "Gentlemen," I said calmly, "would one of you be kind enough to read that document aloud?" Officer Nelson cleared his throat. "It's, an HOA citation leading to a proposed eviction under Article 14 of the Neighborhood Covenant. But there's no court order, sir. Just a notice filed by the HOA. "So," I said, addressing Margaret, "you've decided to enforce a non-judicial eviction with police presence? Without a warrant or a judge's signature?" "The HOA has legal standing to enforce bylaws," she said, smug as ever. "We don't need a judge." "Ma'am," I said, stepping closer, "I'm Judge Carter, Raymond Carter, 12th District Court, and I promise you, you do need a judge." She paled, just a bit, but her pride wasn't going down without a fight. "Titles don't exempt you from the rules," she snapped. "Correct," I said, smiling, "but they do help when someone breaks the law trying to enforce their authority. Officer Nelson, I'd like a moment with you and your supervisor, please. Inside." He nodded immediately. The other 2 officers followed without question. Margaret started to protest, but I held up a hand. "You stay here. This won't take long." Once inside, I showed them my judicial credentials, property deed, and the neighborhood's covenant. I explained how HOA bylaws require legal action before any eviction. There were protocols, formal complaints, hearings, a court summons. Margaret had skipped all of it. "Judge Carter," Nelson said, "we're sorry. She told us this had already been through legal channels." "I understand," I said, "but this is something we need to handle carefully. I'm going to ask you to file an incident report. I will personally oversee a civil case against her if necessary. And as for her false use of law enforcement, that's not going to fly." They agreed, clearly relieved they hadn't acted on her bluff. When we stepped back outside, Margaret was pacing. She froze when she saw us. "Are you arresting him or not?" she barked. "No, ma'am," Nelson replied. "This is a civil matter. There's no legal eviction in place." "But I'm the HOA president," she shrieked. "He's a menace to the neighborhood." "Then you can file a civil complaint like anyone else," I said, "and I'll be happy to see it come across my desk, if it ever makes it that far." "You can't preside over your own case." "You're right, but I can refer it to a colleague." She stormed off, but it wasn't over yet. Later that week, I filed a formal complaint with the city against Margaret Green and the HOA. Abuse of authority, harassment, false representation to law enforcement. I wasn't looking for revenge. I was looking for accountability. Turns out I wasn't the first resident she'd harassed. Several neighbors came forward. An elderly couple told me she tried to fine them $500 for having a bird bath. A single mother received weekly citations for toys left on her lawn. Margaret was on a power trip, and it was about to end. 3 weeks later, the civil hearing began. I watched from the gallery as a colleague presided. Margaret had a lawyer. So did the HOA. Testimony after testimony painted a picture of overreach, intimidation, and blatant misuse of HOA power. My incident with the attempted eviction was just the tip of the iceberg. When the verdict came in, it was swift and decisive. Margaret was removed from the HOA board. The HOA itself was fined and ordered to revise its procedures. They had to attend mandatory training on proper legal process. I received a formal apology. So did the neighbors. Now, Margaret sold her house and moved away. The neighborhood is quieter, happier. The HOA runs like it should, not as a dictatorship, but as a support system. And me? I still live in the same house, still sip my coffee on the porch each morning, except now, when I see a patrol car roll by, they wave and I smile. Because justice, real justice, doesn't need a badge or a gavel to stand tall. It just needs someone willing to say, no, this isn't right, and mean it.